Oh, we are live. Okay, great. Well, so this is a extra policy committee meeting on Thursday, April 1st. It's 4 p.m. We have a quorum. We have myself, Dr. Maddox, and Attorney Hull. We also have district staff and Mr. Pruitt. We have 4 policies that have been requested that are time sensitive. And so we're going to try to get these approved or moved through the system today and then put on the work agenda this afternoon or this evening. So I guess call to order. Do we have any minutes? I guess we do. We should approve the minutes. I forgot to look at those. I'll take a quick look. Anybody have any concerns about the minutes? Okay, I think they're fine. All in favor of approving the minutes?
All right.
I guess we need a motion to approve the
I
minutes.
move that we
Sorry.
approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. It's been a long day already. Okay, so let's see. Moving forward, we look at the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the amend or adopt the agenda? Do we need to add anything? Do we need to
Second.
add? Mr. Harris, this is all we needed to do today, these 4?
Yes, ma'am. We pulled
Okay.
the IHF off. We'll look at that in April, later in April.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting the agenda as written? Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Dr. Thomas, did you have any words of wisdom for us today?
No, ma'am. Thank you all for adjusting your schedule to come in. I know it's kind of hectic and then we have to get here for our meeting, so we'll keep this as short as possible. But nope, I have nothing extra. I'll just be prepared to speak about number 1 and probably 3 and 4.
Okay, great, thank you. I don't have anything to report, so we'll move straight to new business, which is policy BCBI, public participation in board meetings. And we were also given an item about some other district policies. So Dr. Thomas, do you want to speak about what your goal is here?
Yes, ma'am.
I can guess, but I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah, so in an effort to ensure that our meetings are efficient and allow us to focus on the work of the board, I think it's important that we remember, not we, but a collective we, remember that board meetings are meetings of the board in front of the public, but not meetings of the public. And that our board, our constituents, we value their input and ideas and suggestions, but they do have means to share their thoughts and ideas with board members and district staff via email, and frequently do that. But it seems that the time that we are spending on public comment during the board meetings has become excessive, and we've gotten feedback from different entities that are working with us on that. And it seems to be impacting the board's ability to then handle the business of the board. So in having these discussions, we researched several area districts and we shared that information with you. I know Attorney Pruitt mentioned last week concerns about the public's right to speak at meetings. And so we're not trying to limit that, but we would, not trying to get rid of that, but we would like to limit that to 30 minutes at each meeting to be dedicated to public comment. And, one of the things I thought would be good to suggest, not mandate, but even like members of the same household, if we have 5 members of a household speaking about the same thing, and still we can receive all of this information via email. If the goal is to share with the board members prior to you all taking action, anyone's feelings or concerns about a proposed action item, we're not eliminating their ability to make that contact, but just trying to streamline the amount of time. Pushing board meetings to 11:30 at night, in my opinion, prevents you all from being able to address the work of the board in a timely manner. So we started with a recommendation of 30 minutes. We're open to longer if that's what the group would like, but I think 3 hours is too long.
I don't disagree. So you're thinking of just adding the sentence about a period of time not to exceed 30 minutes will be
Mhm.
devoted to public comment? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The only other thing I might suggest, I don't know what the practice is right now. When we take the minutes of the meeting, do the public comments get appended to those minutes? So all the letters that get read, are they appended?
I don't
Do the
think they
minutes?
are, but I can ask Ms. Palmer. I don't think they are.
So one of the things I think it would be beneficial to the public is if their comments, written comments, especially the ones that don't get accommodated in the 30 minutes, and I presume we would do first come, first serve, whoever gets their comment in first would get read in the first 30 minutes, but then that the other letters could be appended to the minutes, which
great
is
idea.
a public document. And so they would be able to make their comments and know that the public would know that they made their comments. I think sometimes it's not just a matter of letting us know how they feel, but letting the rest of the public know how they feel. And so
Mhm.
I guess I would want to make sure that was still an option for these letter writers. We could include them on our website or, public comments for each meeting on a website, which I sort of thought we did, but I don't think we are doing. So it would just be nice to have them on the public
Okay.
record.
I
Yes,
agree
ma'am.
with both of those in terms of not wanting public comment to push meetings, well into 11 o'clock, 11:30, and wanting to make sure that those comments are accessible. I just want to make sure that we are not providing too much of a limit on public comment, because I know board members have to be very careful about engaging with parents on social media. There's some thought about being very careful with engaging the public outside of a board meeting. So I just don't want to curtail that ability to truly have the public have access to the board members so that we can be informed when we're making the policy decisions. So if we can maybe also just think about developing policies that would allow the board members more contact. It could be structured contact outside of the board meetings, but making sure that the public has that platform to be able to speak to their elected officials. Just doing it in a more efficient manner.
And it's interesting you said that. Ms. Palmer and I talked about, and we couldn't determine a good way to do it, but because how to quantify what would qualify. But we talked about, in some instances, if there were really big topics, for lack of a better way of describing that we could have like called meetings for the purpose of having public input, and set a time limit to that, but it would just be about that topic. But how do you determine, what's important to me may not be what's important to Dr. Maddox, what's important to her may not be important to Dr. Yeager, but there are things like just i.e. West Broad, to me, that would be one that may warrant a separate call meeting, but I just don't know how we not get into a slippery slope of every month we're having to have a call meeting for additional public comment, and how do we decide which action items would warrant that? But that's kind of along the lines of what it sounds like you're saying, Attorney Hull, of how people being able to have that access. So
yeah, I like that. Even if we just think about, put more work on the board members, but if we were to each say we're going to rotate on a certain calendar, do a certain rotation where we have a virtual town hall to just say, hey parents, I'm going to be logged into this forum. We can talk, you can share your concerns. If you just want to read your letters to me, I can't represent the board, but here's a forum for you to be able to share those concerns. If we can record it and send it to the entire board to make sure that they have your concerns heard. Whatever it is, I just want to make sure that we are efficient with our meetings, because I don't really want to be in a board meeting at 11 p.m. consistently if I can help it. But I do want to make sure that we hear those comments because they're important. And I think when multiple people show up to express concerns on the same issue, it does show how the public really wants the board to know its feelings and how powerful or passionate some of our community members may be about certain issues.
I agree with what has been said. My only thing is the timeliness. If there is something that we are voting on, and and we are limiting the number of people who can speak on a topic, some people they will believe that their comments are not being heard. That might cause some friction. So I think we may also have to look at pushing that time back of when the comments need to be put in, so that if we're voting on a certain action on, there's enough time frame for everyone's comments to be seen by us. Because we're saying if either verbally or if we put have a place where we put comments out, there needs to be a time frame where they're out before we vote. Otherwise, that's going to be another concern.
That's a good point, Dr. Maddox, and that aligns with part of what Ms. Palmer had said. Having 4 o'clock the day of the deadline is challenging as well. So, and I don't know, Attorney Pruitt, is there a guidance we have? Like, could it be 4 o'clock the day before? And that way it allows anything over those 10 that Ms. Palmer has adequate time to upload those so that board members could access them prior to the next day's meeting?
It can't be more than 24 hours prior to the meeting starting.
So it could be 6 o'clock the day before?
Right. Of course, if you put 6 o'clock in the policy, then that if you have a called meeting with a different time, you might want to just say 24 hours.
Right. Okay.
So are we going to edit it here on the fly? Angela, you ready to go? So second paragraph, well, let's see. First paragraph, therefore the agenda for every regular scheduled board meeting will provide, and instead of an opportunity, add the sentence, a period of time not to exceed 30 minutes devoted to public speaking or something like that.
What is the current designation of time? 30 minutes feels very short.
We don't have one. That's why we've been reading them for up to 3 hours. So we don't have any designation. We don't have any limit. As long as the letter is posted by 4 p.m. before the meeting, we read it.
I
So
think
that
30
allows
minutes
for
is too
10
short.
comments. Currently, it would allow us to have 10 comments.
Right.
And
We have, the 3-minute limit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to be the 3-minute limit. It'd be a 2-minute limit. I'm just
Oh.
asking that.
Some
That way
places
we
I
can-
noticed had 5 minutes, but yeah, 2-minute might be good.
And 2-minute, we could get 15 in. That would be, I'm just asking.
More people.
That's fair. More people. Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, it seems like we are imposing some really strict limits on people being able to give us their feedback on certain things. We're down to 3 minutes, and now due to COVID, they can't participate, and see it in real time they can, but they can't be in a room. They're not using their own voices. We're reading letters from them. Now we're stopping mid-letter, and now we're imposing something. I do think there needs to be restraints, but 2 minutes, and then, just 10 comments or 15 comments, I just think that's very limiting. We're going to get a lot of pushback because people are going to feel censored. But I also haven't been in the board meetings where they've gone on all night. So I trust your wisdom, but that just feels very limiting.
I feel comfortable with 3 minutes because we do often, when we've been reading them, we have to stop in quite a few of the letters. I believe that 3 minutes is fair.
And we do stop them in person, Attorney Harold, as well. So that's
Yeah.
not just an online
That's
process.
true. Yeah.
They have to stop in person. Once it hits the 3-minute time, they're stopped. So that's not a change due to them being read. But, I don't know if people feel better with the hour. I think anything over an hour becomes excessive to me. And what I've watched for a couple of years now is the board, by the time we're able to get to the work of the board, people are so exhausted that we're
Yeah.
not able to give the time and attention to the actual work of the board. I think, whatever we do, we still stress and publicize and remind people that they still have the ability to share their comments. They'll get to board members in advance, and they will be posted on the website. So I think that's also a good compromise, but I just think anything over an hour becomes too long.
I personally feel that 30 minutes, I believe 30 minutes is fair. Because I just personally, as a board member, I don't feel like we're being as efficient. I know myself, we are board members, but we do work just like staff. We coming in right from work and coming in our brains. I mean, we are human beings, so it has to be a balance there. And I do believe that 30 minutes is fair.
Okay,
Our
so
meetings are getting longer and longer.
I tend to agree with 30 minutes, especially if we can then say that the rest of the letters will become part of a public record, and we can read them. They're just not read out loud during the meeting, but we can read them and the public can read them. So Angela, did you get that, that one addition? I can't see your screen very well, but okay. And then the other one is in the second paragraph, members of the public who wish to speak at a regular board meeting must contact the superintendent's office no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting.
That would allow time for us then to get them to board members so that you all can be informed prior to a vote.
And then the next paragraph, which is comments, will be limited to 30 minutes. And then, so maybe a sentence in a fourth paragraph that says public comments received by the deadline that cannot be accommodated in the 30 minutes will become part of the record, or the public record. Do you want me to type that in? Was that a yes or a no? You got it. Okay. Does that address all of the various pieces of the concern, or do we have more? What other suggestions are there for it?
I think it addresses it, and it allows us to do a part of what Attorney Hull said and that you had shared earlier, that we still make sure that we're being inclusive of people's voices and opinions.
Do we want to add a sentence about if we receive more than a certain number of comments on a certain single topic, we will try to hold a virtual town hall or a town hall, or do we just let that be, decided on the fly?
Mike, what do you recommend?
If I were on the board, I wouldn't want to hem myself in with that.
That's what
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm the same way. No, I don't think that we should do that.
All right.
The
But
other
we know we
thing,
have the leeway to do it if we ever want to.
yeah, there we go. Hey, I like that, Dr. Thomas. We do it if we need to do it.
How about a sentence that says the board can call a special, I don't know.
If we
do
can
we
just
want-
do it, we don't
We
need to put that
can,
in there.
but we're not all going to be here all the time for the rest of our lives, thank goodness. So we might just put something in writing that, I don't know, or not. Just leave it. And
The
know that
other-
we can do it.
Yeah, the only other thing that that I foresee that, could be discussed at a later date, but is the monopoly of the of the comments, like each month, the same 10 people, putting their comments in, and then that being, I just see it becoming an issue. We hear from Tawana Matters every single meeting, and my comments have never been, read out loud. The same 10 people are read. They know exactly what time to push submit, and I see that as being a human issue that will probably, come up if we are reading the same people every time.
Is it illegal to say we would like to give different stakeholders an opportunity to give input since this period of time is limited?
So what
That's
you
a
usually
bad
say
idea,
about that
I
is,
think.
I saw it in a couple of the examples there from other places that groups are encouraged to appoint a spokesman to speak for the group or something like that. Because if you start requiring it, now you're evaluating the content of the speech, and you can't do that.
Okay. Do we need to add something along those lines? Groups are asked to designate a single spokesperson?
Exactly.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
That's it for me on that one. Thank you all.
Okay. Shall we entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion to move it up to the board for their consideration. Okay, all in favor?
I'm in favor, but I'm gonna vote against it tonight. I just don't want to be no surprise. I'm in favor to move it up, but I'm voting against it.
I'm sorry, is the 3 minutes per speaker still in there? I was just trying to make sure and it went away.
I think it is.
I thought it was. We agreed to leave it at 3 minutes to not
Okay.
restrict it too much.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, sorry. Just making sure.
So Attorney Hall, do you want to elaborate why you're going to vote against it tonight?
I see so many problems with it being restrictive. I mean, my husband and I, for example, we have very different opinions. And so we would be in the same household, but that might be a limit in giving different opinions. Or if I can't get to a computer to type my letter up within a window and I'm getting it in at the last minute, it's not going to be heard. I just see so many different problems, and we haven't yet addressed how we're going to, or what we're going to couple with this policy, what the alternative will be to make sure that people are heard. So we're just restricting things right now without anything else to go with it that's concrete. So that's it.
Well, is there something we could add that would address that question? I guess I don't really want to send a policy up that doesn't have your support.
I think we would just have to do it, maybe have some policies in conjunction with this. Like what is the alternative? Like, what are we going to do? Are we saying that just placing the information on the website is sufficient?
Attorney Hall, would you
Yes.
feel better about 45 minutes with that? Because I know you had expressed that 30 minutes was just too short. Seems like an hour is too long. Would you feel better about 45 minutes?
I would. I wanted an hour, but I would feel better with 45 minutes, and I would feel better with maybe us fleshing out so it's not like the first couple of letters, or like what about the people who don't have computer access, right? Like how they gonna get the comments in? What are we gonna do to make sure that those marginalized voices are heard? Because I just think about me, and I'm at the last minute of everything that I do. So my letter would never be read during the first couple that got in. So what are we doing about them?
So I wonder, Dr. Yeager, is there an opportunity to maybe look at how we sort public comment? Because I think what you're saying, Attorney Hole, at the end of the day, if a person doesn't find out that something's on the board agenda to the day before the agenda goes live, their comment may come in last minute. And so then their comment wouldn't be read. I do think there's maybe a need to, on the policy, I think it says written copies of the comment may be provided to the board, but I think Dr. Yeager, you were asking if they could just be provided, like that may need to change. I didn't want to point that out, that it says may, and I think you were saying shall or will be provided. But I wondered, Attorney Hole, is that really what you're saying? Is that developing a process to kind of sort through the comments, or for
just
people
making sure? Yeah, some of that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody has that opportunity to be heard. And being a new board member, it feels so restrictive right now about what can be done, because we're under the auspice of Cognia and not crossing boundaries. So that it already felt kind of restricted. And then this adds more restrictions. I get it. But it's that piece of making sure that everybody that wants to be heard is heard, and they're given that equal opportunity. So yes, I like the 45 minutes.
Sorry.
In terms of email access, right? So that's no different. So I think there are a couple of issues there that you've brought up that really this isn't a policy issue. It's even right now, if people don't have the ability to email, then their comments haven't been heard for the last year. So I think that has opened up, something else we need to consider moving forward. That's not really about the policy so much as how do we support people who can't access, don't have digital access.
Right.
That might hit it. I'm sorry, Dr. Thomas, the other Dr. Thomas, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dr. M. Thomas. But yeah, I think that might be getting towards some of my discomfort with it.
But I was just gonna say, I do think it's important to have it in writing, because, once you get 9, 10, 11, 12 people that are speaking, to me, it speaks volumes to say we're going to publish what you've written. And when people are speaking, it keeps them focused on, this is the reason why you're here. So that conversation is going to be more focused because they have whatever they're going to say in writing. And then for us to post it, I think that speaks volumes to the board. We feel we value what you have to say, so we're posting this so that it can be read. And it's more about, like you guys said, it's more about the access of other people to be able to see it. So we can get with Lawrence and see how are we funneling our communication out to make sure that everybody's getting the opportunity to look at it, and train our parents on where to go to find additional information if you need it. In an
Could I
easy
just
way.
point out that it doesn't say anything about emailing. It says contact superintendent's office.
Right. It can be a
Provides
phone call.
name, place of residence, contact info, and speaking topic. You can call, you can mail, you can walk it over there and hand it to Lisa.
That's true.
And you don't have to provide the whole comment if you don't want to.
Okay, so that makes me feel better. So if I am calling the superintendent's office to say, I don't really like what's going on with West Broad, is somebody going to codify my comment for me and submit it?
I would think that'd be an awful lot to ask Lisa to try.
I don't think we can.
I mean, I'm just asking.
I mean, in
Um,
theory, we're going to get back to public meetings very soon, in theory, right? So at some point, they before COVID, they did just call and say, put me on the list, and they were put on the list and then given their 3 minutes to come speak. So in the event that we are not meeting and allowing them to speak publicly, you're right, there is some restriction. You'd have to write it down and submit it as a letter, but
And you could call and get on the list and then bring that letter to us.
Right.
But yeah, not being able to dictate the letter to us.
We did just change the shall back to may, because I think with what you just said, Mr. Pruitt, technically if a person could also speak from the heart at the podium and not be using a piece of paper. Personally, I know sometimes I don't actually use a notepad, I just talk. So that way we didn't want to lock ourselves into saying shall be provided to the board. So we went right back to may, Dr. Yeager, just so you could see it. We wouldn't be able to transcribe everything everybody's saying. That seems like it would be a lot.
Where is the may and shall? What paragraph?
Yeah, I'm not seeing that either. What are you talking about?
Right there, we change it to shall be provided to the board. written
Oh,
copies,
oh.
but we can't say it shall be if people are talking, we're not gonna be able to transcribe everything they're saying. So that would lock us in. So we went right
Well,
back.
and then again, in the past, when somebody's read a long letter, we often got a copy of it in the email, either right before or right after the meeting. They would send it to us in addition to their oral comments. So, but not always. You're right, not always. So written copies may be provided. Yeah, okay. But then how to make them part of the public record? Somebody would have to type them in if they were not provided in writing. Okay, well, Ms. Hall, are you going to be able to vote for it now, or do you still feel like you would not support it?
I'm gonna pray about it. That's the best I got for you. I can pray
Okay.
on it. I just think we're making a lot of assumptions. We're assuming that anybody whose comment should be assessed is going to be comfortable, number one, putting it in writing, number two, being able to write it, and number three, being able to get it to where it needs to go by a designated time to be in a lottery to get it read. So I'm gonna pray on it because I don't want to be difficult, but that's the best I got for you, Dr. Yeager. That's all
Okay,
I got.
fair enough. That's
It
fair enough.
sounds like some of these issues are just about the public comment policy itself more so than our.
Yes. Yes.
Right,
So
it's
if
not
we,
really about, okay, yeah, I'm with you, okay.
yeah, so if we did 45 minutes, 30 minutes, and we're reading them and we're cutting them off, but they're being posted online, then I think that makes that alleviates some of my concerns. But are we making sure that we're hearing everybody who may not be literate and able to draft a letter or comfortable trying to draft their own letter and then get it submitted? I just would think we're making assumptions based on like our middle class socioeconomic families and not the rest.
But those problems were enhanced by COVID, by having to do this written thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will go away soon. Okay, well, I have been in a board meeting where we had public comments in person that went on for 2 hours, and that wasn't any more efficient. So I think the 30 minutes, or if you really want 45 minutes, I'm okay with 45 minutes, but I don't think we want to be able to. I mean, in the past, we've gone so much longer and we all glaze over and we stop being able to listen very well too. I mean, my son, who had the assignment of watching a board meeting I guess it was a month ago, maybe it was 2 months ago. Anyway, he was watching all of our faces while we're listening to the reading of these letters. And he says, you were all just glazed by the 10th or 11th letter, even though we were all probably listening, but it's not good theater either. So even if we are listening, we don't look like we're listening. So I think 30 minutes, 45, if it would help bring you closer into the voting, is a really good idea. And then we have them to read. I mean, I always read all the letters before the meeting anyway, so that it just helps me listen better. But all right. Did we want to make a friendly amendment to change it to 45 minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Dr. Yeager, you can just ask if there's any objection from any other members of the committee to that friendly amendment. If
Any
not, it
objections
stands
from
as-
any other member? Any
No.
objections? Dr. Maddox?
No,
Hold on,
Okay, thank you. So did we pass this or did we not pass this? Yes, we did pass it, but now we have amended it again. So do we have a motion? Do we need to have a motion to move it forward again? Or we're,
So
It's okay.
moved.
all right, all in, Dr. Maddox?
Second,
All right, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. All right. Teacher evaluation appeals. So Ms. Paget, would you please state the case for this particular draft? I know we all know that there's a law, the state law, that we have to abide by this new policy. It was a hard fought law by the teachers and the teachers unions to get a policy like this on every school board's agenda. So can you first tell us where this is coming from and then how the wording was decided?
Yes, ma'am. So as Dr. Yeager just mentioned, there was a new law that was passed, and previously teacher evaluations were actually specifically listed as items that could not be grieved. And this change was made. It's almost carved out as an exception to the policy that lists what can and cannot be grieved. The Georgia School Board Association recommends this wording, and we didn't see anything that we found to be egregious. And so we've taken their recommended wording and proposed it. It's very straightforward. It just gives the process that follows the letter of the law for how a teacher could appeal any evaluation that they may disagree with informally, even though evaluations have not been grievable. I personally am the one who speaks with teachers who have always had a problem with their evaluation. So by practice, while it may not have been called a grievance, we always heard teachers out if they wanted to talk to HR about their evaluation, and we would go through and make sure that the documentation supported it. But now we can have this policy that allows for them to have a formal written process to execute that.
Okay, so this wording came from GSBA, you said?
Yes, ma'am. It's the recommended wording from GSBA to be compliant with the legal changes.
Okay. I think the only thing I've heard is that they're very interested in the ability to have a third party, an external party review. And I see that the wording in here is at the discretion of the superintendent, a qualified third party. What if a teacher requests a third party, but for whatever reason, Dr. Thomas doesn't think that's necessary? Can we remove that at the discretion of the superintendent and maybe add at the request of the complainant? I mean, because it seems like that's one of the things they really, really wanted was an external qualified third party to do the review. Do you see any issue with that? I guess Dr. Thomas is not on at the moment, or maybe she is, and we just can't see her.
The piece that I can give you is I don't think that having the superintendent have that discretion is a bad thing. Anything that we've reviewed, we've tried to review with equity, and we would continue to do so.
I don't see anything about a third.
The board does not want, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in the third paragraph, it says,
There it is.
if the teacher is dissatisfied with the principal's response, an appeal may be filed within 5 school days with a certified and TKES trained administrator in the central office to be designated by the superintendent. I presume that would be you, Meredith.
Yes, ma'am, it would be someone in human resources. That would be myself or Dr. Blankenship.
Yeah, okay.
Me.
So someone still within the district. And so what I've heard from teachers who lobbied hard for this policy at the state level is that they want to be able to have an independent review under some circumstances. And so I would want to make sure that they had that opportunity if they desired.
That's certainly at the discretion of the board, and it wouldn't be anything that was prohibited.
Okay.
What
Okay.
I would offer is that you may wind up getting a long list of things that are very time consuming, but not of merit. if there's not a chance to have different departments, I guess, evaluate them with professional integrity. But again, that's at your.
So this is so there's two levels of appeal. So the first level is always internal. The second level, I think what Dr. Yeager's saying, in the second level where that blue highlight is, so where it ends, it says, or in the discretion of the superintendent. What you're suggesting is change that to, or at the request of the teacher.
Correct.
And I like that. I support
I do
that.
too.
I'm fine with that as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Where am I putting that language?
There, you see where the blue is?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Well, we're gone now.
here we go. That.
All right, so see where right after where the blue ends, where it says, or in the discretion of the superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
change that to, or at the request of the teacher.
Who would you be proposing that TEKS trained third-party administrator be? Would it be a contracted service or?
I thought it was, they were speaking of their GAE or page rep that would come in to, as to help mediate in the appeal process. That was my thought. That's what usually has happened in the past if teachers have wanted to bring someone in to help advocate for them.
No, this is a decision maker. You're not
Oh.
No, I would advise that their union rep not be a decision maker, because that is 100% a conflict of interest, because they would always side on behalf of their client.
Yeah, I don't think they were asking for a union rep. They were asking for an independent third party. And so, yes, I guess we would have to figure out who that independent third party would be, whether they would be a mediator of some sort that we contracted with, or if
Not a mediator, arbitrator.
No, arbitrator.
Decision
Thank
maker.
you. Sorry, arbitrator. But presumably those people exist, right?
Well, we don't know. This is brand new. So I'm wondering if, depends on how it plays out. If districts may have to start swapping, we may start letting, Jackson and Oconee have Meredith to be their third party, and they have to let us have their HR person to be our third party.
So if we don't have to figure that question out tonight, this may present a really interesting opportunity for the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution. Is completely removed, but they're trained arbitrators, conflict resolution specialists, some of which have knowledge in different fields. That may be a source. I don't know. I'm just tanking out loud, but I think there are organizations and agencies that might be able to take this up. If it's
something that's not addressed here, that comment just made me focus on. Typically in our school board stuff, when there's a level of appeal, it's on the written record. But this one's not, I was assuming it was the same, but it doesn't say. It doesn't say if it's de novo or on the record, or what the standard of review is, if there's new evidence or not, any of that,
And I think the problem is that all of this is new and has not been done before, but the intent was to allow there to be a process to appeal evaluation, because before it was specifically not allowed to appeal. It was specifically not grievable. And our grievance process goes through HR. That this is very much the similar path that our grievance process goes through. And the biggest thing would be is that it would have to be someone who is trained and understands how to administer TEKS, because that is not, I guess, common outside of the education world. And in fact, if you've never been a leader, it's probably not common. And so, at Mike's suggestion, we could reach out to a neighboring district for an independent arbitrator, or whatever the case may be, if the board feels that they want it to be at the request of the teacher versus the discretion of the superintendent. We just have to find a way to make that happen.
One thing, I'm thinking that GSBA may have some ideas because it still was at the discretion of the superintendent. So it was already in here, regardless of if the teacher made the complaint. So the way that it was already written, it may be that there may be some ways that that has already been worked out. We only added the teacher. Yeah, we only added the teacher to this passage, but it was already at the discretion of the superintendent that a third party could be utilized.
Yeah, I'd suggest they wrote it that way so that if we can figure out how to get a third party, we could do it. If we couldn't,
Oh,
it'd just be
okay, I
in-house.
see, I see,
I don't
Okay.
think they figured it out for us.
I
Oh.
see, okay.
And I didn't mean to delete the discretion of the superintendent. I just meant to add or at the request of the teacher. Angela, I don't know if you can fix that. I mean, I think there might be cases where Dr. Thomas or whoever the superintendent is in the future might say, I think this needs to go to a third party, and it should be, that should be a choice they have as well.
You know, I wonder if the Department of Education, with their conflict resolution continuum, if this would be something that they're think tanking to dispatch investigators or other type of resolution people to deal
Yeah.
with. I'll put in the email and ask.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was a reg or something that could outline how this happens a little better once we get it into the policy. I understand right now the urgency is that this policy has to be in place by July 1st. So that's why we're pushing it through tonight. But I'm okay with it at the moment with this addition. Are there any other concerns or questions for tonight?
I just have a point. Do we need this policy shall become effective on July 1st at the bottom? Or because is it not effective once you all voted into?
Yeah,
policy?
It is.
True.
Mike, when does the law become effective?
We have
July
to have
1st.
it by July 1st. Actually, I would leave it there because I mean, that's the end, that's when you start a new period. So you don't want to implement this for the 2021 evals. This is going to start with the 21-22 evals.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
So moved that we send this up to the board tonight.
Second,
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Meredith. I appreciate your time and the effort you put into this.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. It's 4:51. We still have a few minutes. The KG policy and reg, use of the school facilities. So as you know, this was bounced back to us. It was reviewed a few months ago under the K policy review, and Mr. Davis argued that we needed to send this back and cook it up a little more. And it has a lot to do with this idea that we keep talking about but haven't really implemented completely, or at least the board hasn't fully discussed. I know Mr. Harris has been thinking a lot about this, is this community schools idea. And specifically, are our schools open to the public for uses, particularly by nonprofits, without cost to them? And so he has suggested that we look at a lot of the fee schedules and things are in the exhibits. And some of his concerns and comments are about what's in the exhibits, which the board has no jurisdiction over whatsoever. So I've told him that, but I have suggested to him that we could discuss this, this additional sentence, which he would like to add to KG, which allows, so let's see, school-related groups that have second priority for use of school facilities shall include the following. He adds nonprofit organizations with sole purpose, whose sole purpose is to serve youth, a majority of whom attends CCSD schools as certified by the superintendent. And then I think in the reg, he has well, we haven't made any edits to the reg. But
You
I
may be
think
thinking of
the,
my comments, Dr. Yeager.
yeah, okay, sorry.
Because if you make that change, there's a couple of things you need to change in the regs too.
Yeah, okay. So that's the thing, is we also need to fix the reg. But I know Dr. Thomas has some thoughts, and maybe Mr. Pruitt, you have some thoughts about this.
I do. So I have multiple levels of thoughts and layers of thoughts. My first thought is that I agree. I think that there are a couple of issues there that have occurred or taken place. One is that Dr. M. Thomas is in with us and new in that role, and the administrative assistant has been responding to some of the applications for facilities usage that in the past, Mr. Fisher or Mr. Gilbert would have vetted and would have known kind of that understanding about community groups. And I do agree that that is why I guess having things in policy is important. But if you have it in policy, it still doesn't make it practice. And so I think we just have to do a better job of educating or informing individuals of what our practice is in terms of community groups. My only concern, so I think there have been some errors, not errors, but some charges made in the recent past that are not aligned to how we've normally charged. And I feel like we can fix that easily. If we're going to start looking at developing a policy around our community schools model, it would be, in my mind, important that we first of all establish our community schools model before we create a policy to support a model that we haven't set the model yet. The other thing, and I've said this to Mr. Davis, so when we talk about equity and accessibility to resources and facilities, I think that the liability insurance can be an inhibitive piece. And what we can do is work to support organizations in being able to identify providers who are more reasonable, work with providers to support our community in that. But I don't feel like we can just totally eliminate that requirement because it is a liability issue. When we talk about custodial support, we may not need 4 custodians. Maybe we can get it down to 1. But Mr. Davis and I were in a place of disagreement about charging for those custodial services. And even if a custodian is at work in the evening, they're at work because they have an assigned task. So to say to the custodian, well, we also want you to tend to this group that's renting for 3 hours and do whatever needs to be done there, to me is disrespectful of the work assignments they have that have them there in that building already. And my last comment would be that the position of taxpayers pay taxes, so they should be able to use our buildings at no cost, is no different than the fact that I pay taxes, but if I want to rent the Linden House, I have to pay their facilities usage. If I want to use the gym at Bishop Park for my 4-year-old grandbaby's birthday party, I have to pay for that. So why we treat schools differently, our primary purpose is to educate children, and we need to maintain our facilities in a way that our children have quality facilities. And to treat it as just a free-for-all, to me, is disrespectful of actually the intent of our being. Now, all that said, we had community groups in and out all the time. And I think we may have to look at a fee structure that may be on a sliding scale. Maybe for-profit groups can pay this, nonprofit groups can pay that. I think we can be flexible in that, but it, to me, needs to be aligned with our entire community schools model. Sorry to go off, but those are just a lot of things that kind of got thrown at me. I'm like, whoa, well, if that's the case, I want to have my baby's graduation party at Linden House for free and you know what I mean? Like we still have responsibilities to our facilities. So
I'm a
that's my
taxpayer,
rant
it's
for
how
today.
January 6th happened.
Sir?
That I'm a taxpayer is how January 6th happened. Any sentence that starts, I'm a taxpayer, so I should, has no validity.
So, and from my discussions with Greg, Mr. Davis, I don't think he's argued for free and open access to anybody that thinks they're a taxpayer. I think he has argued that nonprofit groups who are serving our children should get some consideration and be offered the facilities at minimal cost, especially if they're serving our children. That's what I've heard from him much more than I saw his letter earlier, last night's letter, and it did talk about taxpayers. So I understand, but I think in my conversation with him, his primary concern is the nonprofits who are serving the children. So I will defend him since he's not here on that topic.
And we were in
Um,
agreement on that. I'm not saying, but I think when we start going to that area, when he put it in writing, I'm like, wait. I think we're going too far to the, I guess that's the left, not the right. But we were in agreement on nonprofit community groups. But what I kept trying to say was we do that already. And so I don't want us to be at a place where when a mistake happens, we become reactive to feeling like we have to make a drastic policy change when we have a person who's out on FMLA. And if anyone notices, that has not been a significant issue until these last recent. I mean,
Yeah.
Sirius was one of the ones that advocated for the track. They've used the track. They said that they've used the track before in the past. Why did the cost jump? Well, the cost jumped because Mr. Fisher was out and he had an admin who's just going by what's on paper.
right.
And so that's my thing, is I just don't want us to have an incident. Sometimes we just need to deal with what happened rather than saying we have a significant policy issue. But I do agree with including nonprofits in that statement.
Okay, so the simple addition of the sentence in KG and in the reg is okay with you then? Okay, I think that's a good compromise. And then you all deal with the exhibits and the price schedules and so let's see, this is the reg. God, I can't read. So I'm gonna go load it into my other view.
Yeah, it's in my comments. Of course, you can't see those at the same time you look at this. So
Okay.
in items 2 and 3, there are a couple of places you just need to change it to school-related groups as policy, as defined in policy KG.
Okay,
You want me to read it to you now, Angelia, or do you want to, or who's doing the editing?
Angela.
I am. I think I got it, Mike. Thank you.
You got it? Okay.
So in item 2, change school clubs, non-sponsored student clubs, and school-supported organizations to school-related groups.
Whoa.
And
Oh.
then, yeah, where it says KG and then get
There
rid
we
of,
go.
yeah, so that, yeah. And then the school clubs, ... It's deleted or,
That's right. Yeah, delete from school clubs to where the parentheses close after student organizations. There you go.
and no fees shall be charged for such uses. Excellent. That's just exactly what I hoped. Okay. And then you said the third,
Yeah, the third one. So
do the basically the same.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm leaning in so much, you all. I'm trying.
Yeah,
to-
I'm trying not to scare you all with my,
Me
Darn
too.
it.
I feel like I'm right in Dr. Madison's face. She's probably like, back up, get out of my space. I feel like I need to put on a mask. I'm so close. I'm trying.
That. Is that right? Did
You're
I-
good, Angela.
I think you got it. Okay. And then we fixed KG, right?
Am I adding more language for KG?
Just that nonprofit organizations whose
Oh.
sole purpose is to serve youth, a majority of whom attend CCSD schools as certified by the superintendent. I think that's all we need. Is everybody happy with that? Shall we move them up together?
So
Take a motion?
moved.
Second,
All in favor of moving KG and KGR1 as amended up to the board tonight?
I,
Aye.
All right, absolutely awesome. And it's only 5 o'clock. Yay. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hopefully y'all can get some dinner. I saw some menus being passed around in the chat.
See y'all in a minute.
Okay, take care. Thanks again. Oh, we have to adjourn. Sorry. All in favor of adjourning?
So moved, second, and aye.
Thank you. All right, aye. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
I will go ahead
Thank you,
and,
Dr. Yeager. Thank you, everyone.
you're welcome. Dr. Yeager, I'll go ahead and add these to the agenda, so they'll just be added to the bottom of the ones to be.
Excellent. All right, thank you. And I guess I haven't